Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today on Project Garage, we're going to be working on cleaning up the electrical in here, which is a big mess. It's been a big mess since the first day I saw this place, and let's just go through a little bit of what's going on with the electrical. I'm going to try and clean up and how we're going to try and sort things out. All right, so first of all, when I come in here, we already have a light switch, and this does turn on the lights. However, what's going on is that light switch right there is actually powering those outlets there, and all of the outlets are running from this electrical cable, which is, I've got coiled up here, and then runs up to the ceiling, powers these lights, and these LED lights are only halfway working at this point. So we're gonna fix those. And really, when I wired in the new lights up here, there wasn't any wiring over there, so I just wired them into that same outlet. So we're gonna hardwire everything in correctly with real wiring so that it's not just electrical cables strewn about. If we follow this electrical, you can see it's like hanging down here. It runs over the doorway. And it's kind of all over the place. So it's definitely not the way we want it. The other thing is, because it's powering this outlet, half of the outlets I've got in the garage right now end up getting turned off anytime I turn it on off the outlet. So the freezer I've got in here, I had to run an extension cord over to another power outlet over here so we can do that. So we're gonna take care of that. And then this light over the workbench doesn't have, it's just also plugged into an outlet, and there's no switch for that. So I think we're gonna also try and set up a switch for that so we can switch that on and off directly, and we'll have everything a little bit more organized, and we'll get rid of all of these extension cables that I've got running all over the garage here. I got supplies. I'm gonna move these bikes out of the way. I'm gonna move a few things out of my way here. And then we're gonna start breaking things apart, and let's hope I don't get electrocuted. All right, just to help ensure I don't shock myself whilst I'm doing all this, I got this little pen. We can turn this on, and if it senses a circuit with electricity in it, it'll beep. So I can tell that this line's hot. You can tell this line's hot, and let's see, should be able to, I think it's that circuit, turn it off, and it's no longer hot. Maybe it's hot, doesn't seem to be hot anymore. Whereas if we hit this one up here, that's still hot. So we can tell no longer hot. We're good. All right, so we're gonna take this apart. What I'm gonna do, I think first is, I'm gonna pull this apart. I want the switch to still be here. I just don't want those outlets to be powered by the switch any longer. You know what? I think we're gonna clean up that wiring down there while we're at it. That goes into this outlet. We'll clean all of this up. And then what we're gonna end up with is these being powered full time, no longer on a switch. The switch then running up, and the power that runs off that switch will run up into the lights that we're gonna install. Okay, progress is going good here. So we have rewired this. So we put a new switch in here, and this switch only runs up to the lights. So we've got a line running up that's gonna power the lights. And then independent of the switch now, we've rewired these outlets here so they no longer turn on and off when we turn on the switch. Here, let me just turn on the breaker here. And we can just use our little tester, verify these two orange lights on indicate that it is wired in correctly. So we're good. We've got our ground and our neutral, and everything's plugged in the right way. So we can just kind of do a little verification there. So that's all good. We're just gonna flip that breaker back off while we hook up the lights. So up above us, we've put in the first box that's gonna, there we go. Put in the first box that's gonna hook in the lights. So we're gonna run another one there, and then two more right where I've got this bike at, and then the two lights that are up there, we'll get some light boxes also to wire everything in the right way. So we're just gonna wire it all in right now, do a little bit more drilling, and then hook up the lights, and then we can pull these old LEDs down and get rid of all of this old wiring mess that's up there right now. All right, so we wired in the first light. It's rough. It's not, I don't even have the grounds connected yet, and it is loose up there still, so it needs to get fastened into place, but I can flip on the light, and the light switch drives it. It works. We are in business. So we'll hook up. I've got wiring knocked in for one there and one there. We'll hook those up, make sure they work, and then we'll run over to the next set. Okay, it has been a few weeks actually. So you're watching this video and you just saw I was working on the lighting and doing some stuff, and then I actually got done with a bunch of that, and we're doing a big time skip here. So it's actually been a few weeks since 2 minutes ago in the video. The reason why I got a little distracted with a few other things, with some work stuff, working on the video that I did for the lake levels. That's the last video. If you go back, if you want to see that, it's one of the videos I'm really proud of. I think it was a lot. But I want to finish working on this garage. And so we've made some more updates. And I actually did a bunch the day that I did that. I finished, if you can tell, the lighting in here is really nice. And I finished most of the lighting. And I'm getting close to the point where I want to start working on finishing off the drywall. But before I did that, I wanted to get more electrical work done. So let's go through and we'll talk about what we did here. By the way, while, you know, usually these DIY type videos, people are doing like, hey, here's how I do this. Here's the thing. I'm not an electrician. And doing electrical work is something that you kind of need to know what you're doing. So I follow through these steps. I tend to be very safe while I'm doing it, but I don't feel that I know enough to show, hey, here's how to do this yourself. I know how to do it myself, but I don't know that I feel like I'm competent enough to show somebody else how to do it. So we're shortcutting some of that. Let's go through and I'll show you what we've done so far. So things are a little disarrayed because I was just doing a bunch more work in here, but first of all, we got, actually, first thing I did, I installed this light switch, and that got all of the lighting in here working. So all the overhead lighting is up. I've got a total of 6 overhead lights now. So there's 3 on this side. You can see that one through the bikes there. And then I got 2 more on the far side over there, and then 1 over this lower section here. And then there's actually, over where I usually have my workbench, although the workbench is out because I was just doing a bunch of the electrical work. It looks like crap now. I know there's a bunch of cables hanging down, but that's all to be cleaned up. We installed this second switch just today, which controls that guy. So now I can turn all of the lights on independent, and I've kind of got the workbench light set up also. There was a little bit extra. It wasn't really necessary, but I think it'll be a lot nicer once everything's done. So the next thing, I do have one more, actually I have 2 more things to do. So first of all, as I was wiring things in, I had to rewire in this electrical outlet. It was a little janky, and actually as I was rewiring it, the old electrical outlet literally fell apart. And so I replaced it with one of the extra ones that I had that I was planning to install. I want one up here by the window. That's going to be what I use to actually plug in the Wi-Fi extender as well as my outdoor lights. And that way the wiring for this stuff will no longer be hanging down, and that will look nice and clean as well. And then the final thing we're going to do is we are going to get into the electrical panel, and we're going to install this additional 50 amp 240 volt breaker, which will be used for powering a welder. So when we get a welder installed in here, we're going to want to run that on 240. We could run it on 110, but apparently it's better to possibly run it on 240. I don't know. I'm not a welder. This is stuff I'm going to be learning, but I'm trying to future-proof some of this. The other thing we're going to do, because that's going to end up spending too many amps, I'm going to put in a manual interlock so that I can only run either the 240 outlet or my 240 EV charger, and both of them can't be on at the same time. Otherwise, it's just going to pop the breaker in the house in the unlikely event that I accidentally start welding while I have the truck plugged in. I don't think that's a real risk, but just to be extra safe, we're going to do that as well. So I am pretty much done for today, but it's not done for the video. So I'm going to clean up a little bit. We'll get things a little bit organized in here, and then tomorrow I'm going to get one more switch and we'll show how we install that. I'm still not 100% sure how I want to do the wiring and run that. And then we will install the additional outlet. I already have that. We just, we're going to do that tomorrow though. And so we're going to do a little bit of organization and cleanup. There's a bunch more cleanup and organization we got to do in here. Although it looks like a mess, but it is looking a lot better. I do have the gym set up now. I've actually used it several times. It's great. Although I got a bunch of stuff in there right now. We also have easy access to our 3D printer, so we're going to be printing some stuff now. So we're going to cut now, and then it's going to be tomorrow morning, and we'll start working on the rest of this. Okay, so we removed the garage door, and one thing that was always baffling me was this gap that's right here in the top of the garage door. They kind of had a couple of pieces of this foam up there, but that really didn't solve the problem. So there's a big gap there. You can see it from the outside. Light shines out. And if we look, the other garage door has this sort of 1x1 over the top of it. So I don't know why they didn't have that installed on this one. Seems like odd. So we're just going to throw one up there real quick. Oh shit, it won't lift up if it's there. All right, well now I think we figured out why they didn't put that there, because with it there, the door doesn't lift up. So they put the ceiling just a little too low for the door to actually open, so they pulled that off. So I think we're gonna have to think of a different solution. We might get maybe just a exactly 1-inch board. We're gonna pull this off. We'll take some closer measurements here. All right, so our quick solution here was just to fasten the trim board to the outside here, which works fine. And let's see how she closes solid. We're good now. This is that's perfect. I'm super happy with that. So it's off color right now. We're gonna paint the whole garage here pretty soon. So that'll just get painted with that, and after that, we're pretty much done fixing this big gap on our garage door. All right, this project has been going a little bit slow just because I've got other things going on. I pulled my back a couple of days ago, which slowed me down a little bit. But we're coming up towards the end of this project, and I kind of want to give a little bit of an update, mostly on some of the things that I did in here that I think were kind of useful and cool, and that I'm a little bit excited about. So the first things first, let's look at this wall panel over here. I just got this installed. This is a organizational wall I got from the company is called Wall Control. I looked at a few different units on Amazon, and I ended up settling on this one, and there's a few different reasons why. I had sort of crappy 1/8-inch fiberboard pegboard that I was using before. happened to be what was installed in the garage when I moved in here. But the pegs, the 1/8 inch pegs I find aren't super secure. They would fall out really easily. This comes with these slots, and it came with a whole bunch of, I got a whole box of these in various different sizes. These little slot pegs or slot holders, hooks, slot hooks. Let's call them slot hooks. And they don't really wiggle back and forth very much. And they kind of lock in pretty well. So I haven't figured out exactly how I want everything organized here yet, but that's going to be a big thing over the next couple of days. I can also use these 1/4 inch holes to put standard pegboard hooks in here, or I can 3D print some stuff and get all of this organized. I ended up installing 6 of these panels. So it's pretty wide right now. These are 16 inches apart, which is nice because that means they go into each of the studs. So as you know, you can set up one here and drill it into the studs, and the next one goes directly adjacent to it into the same stud. That means as you're installing this, you don't have to use toggle bolts or any drywall screw, sort of drywall mounting. You can screw it directly into the studs and it's nice and secure. Also comes with, you can see over here, some of these little shelves that come in here. Again, I'm not sure exactly what all I'm gonna be, how I'm gonna organize everything here, but it's nice, and I've got a lot more organization space here. And so this I'm pretty excited about. I kept the original shelves that I had in here. They're kind of old and funky, but they're sturdy, and I was able to just kind of drywall around them, left them up, left everything in there to just keep things a little bit sane. I got a lot of organization I got to do up there as well, but that's for a little bit later. So over the course of this project, I did a lot of lighting. I wired in some new outlets. I put in a switch. I did things, and I just made things so it'll be a little bit more convenient to run various tools and lights and other things while I'm out here in the garage. And as I said before, I'm not an electrician. And one of the things that was very handy through this has been these little Wago connectors. Let's see if I can get the camera to actually focus in on this. Let's do a quick demonstration. So these just open up. There's these little switches here. And this is a 3 wire connector. And you put your wire, here, let's just do a demonstration. I put my wire into the little hole. I flip the switch down, and it's now in, and it's really solidly connected. Let's flip the camera around. Let's look down on the desktop, and I'll show you why I like this. All right, so this is a wire net, and I don't know. Here's my thing. Again, not being an electrician, let me just wire these grounds together. I have always found them to be a little fiddly, and I don't know that I trust them. So, you know, I spin these together, and I guess it's in there pretty good. And if I spin it back off, here's my problem. I can see that I was really only connected to one wire, and this one maybe just barely. You can see where the threads for the wire net were on there. So to me, it's really easy to mess this up if you don't know what you're doing. Now, I know professional electricians love wire nuts. Some of them may like wire nuts more than they like the Wago connectors. I don't know. I haven't talked to any of them about it. But I feel like, you know, once I plug this Wago connector in here, it's super secure, and I can tug on it, and I can feel, and I just feel like I know that it's connected better. And so if I connect in a second wire, I can flip it down, and again, I can test that, and I can see that it is really well connected. Now, the kit that I got here, I bought this off Amazon several years ago. I'll put a link. I don't know if they have the exact same kit, but they will have some, I'm sure. So I bought this several years ago thinking I was going to do a lot of electrical work, and I have barely used these until I did this project. And I was able to pick up a couple more at Home Depot. So Home Depot sells these now also. But this kit comes with 2-wire connectors, some 3-wire connectors, and then these giant 5-wire connectors. And you can see, so, you know, I didn't have any need for any of the 5s, so they're all still used there. But there's sort of a little bus that runs across the back of this, connecting every wire that is connected in here. So these were super handy. If I was gonna, you know, wire 2 more, you know, I wouldn't have used the 3-wire connector on here just because it's a little bit wasteful, but it would work. But we'll open this guy up. We'll put in 1 white wire. We'll put in our other white wire and jam it all the way in there. And there's a sort of a normal looking connection between, you know, you've got your hot and your neutral, and then my ground. A lot of the ones I did in here with the ground, just because I'm not as worried about the ground, I had a bunch of wire nuts sitting around that came with lights or whatever I was buying. I would wire the ground in with a wire nut. And so this is usually what everything I was wiring together looked like as I was doing this project. But I really like these Waco connectors. They're very easy to use. I feel like they're easy to secure and make sure that you have connected your electrical connections together solidly. They're also really easy to reuse. So I can just unclip it, and I have not wasted that at all. Same with this 3-wire connector. Flip up the levers and it's off. You know, I could reuse this wire nut also. It unscrews, takes a couple seconds longer. You know, to me, I feel they're a little bit more convenient. They're a little easier to use as somebody that's not running electrical all the time. I think they're great. I highly recommend them. Check it out. All right, so the other thing I did when I was installing the electrical, I installed this NEMA 1450 outlet actually the plan is because I have some welding I'm gonna need to do on the Jeep, and having a 240 outlet installed here in the garage will make that a lot easier. Now, there's different types of NEMA outlets. I went with the 1450 as opposed to the 650 that the welder is probably going to use. Why did I use the one? And I'll have to use an adapter to plug the welder in here. And the reason why is this includes a neutral plug. So there's 2 hots, a neutral and a ground, and a 650 that the welders use, because a welder doesn't actually have a neutral connection. It doesn't need it. But this allows for a lot more versatility. So if I want to use something that requires a neutral, I can use this. If I want to use something that doesn't, I can plug an adapter in here and we can go without. So that's the first part. Now here's the other thing. When I installed that, let's look into my breaker box here. There's a little something else going on here. Let me flip the camera around and we'll zoom around and I'll talk about that. All right, so in the breaker box, you can see I've got this little metal guy here, and the switch is turned off. What is going on here? So this 60 amp circuit powers my EV charger, and this is the 50 amp circuit for the outlet right here for use for welding. The thing is, I have everything in the garage is running off of a 100 amp circuit. 60 plus 50 is more than 100. And so if this little switch here prevents them both from being turned on at the same time, and just gives me a little bit more flexibility on what I can do without worrying about tripping the 100 amp breaker that I've got that runs everything from here from the house into here. Now, I think it's unlikely that I would, so while I think it's pretty unlikely that I would be welding and charging the truck and doing other stuff in here that would push me over the limit, especially since the welder that I'm getting is probably only going to be drawing 25 amps, even though that's a 50 amp circuit. It just gives me that little bit of more peace of mind that I'm not going to overload one of my circuits. And I'm not going to forget to turn off the breaker or forget to unplug the truck. This way, it kind of forces you to only do it one way. So that lockout there just kind of gives me a little bit of peace of mind as I'm doing things and I've got sort of limited power out here, that I'm not overloading the system accidentally. So with that, I think that's the end of this video. We're getting close to the end of this project. I have a lot of organization I got to do. I got a little bit more drywall work that I got to do. I got to do just a little bit of cleaning up. I'm not making this perfect, but I'm going to throw a little bit more mud over this to just finish cleaning up the tape. Some of these joints need to be cleaned up a little bit. And then I'm going to paint out here, and then I'm going to organize out here. And then this will be a much more usable shop. But I'm so happy with the progress on this that I can actually use it, that I'm going to be able to use this as a shop. I'm going to be able to do some welding in here with the Jeep. I've got my 3D printer out here. I can make stuff that's easily accessible. And I've got the whole gym set up so I can work out regularly. So I'm really excited with the way this has turned out. It's so much nicer in here. It's brighter. It's incredibly bright. I can see things that I'm working on, and I'm not going to hit my head when I'm walking from one side of the building to the other. So thanks for checking this out. Thanks for watching this. I'm sorry it's been so long between videos. I know it's been a couple of weeks since I posted the last video on Lake Sawyer. There'll be more. There's a lot more coming. Staying busy. So thanks for watching this, and we'll see you again soon.